In last week's video, I shared a little bit about my experience with anxiety and eating disorders, just a fun little light-hearted video. I was initially quite hesitant about sharing that or oversharing that, but I'm now quite glad I did because it seems to be a story that a lot of you could relate to. In that video, I mentioned that even though I'm not fully recovered, over the past couple of years, I've improved things significantly, going from a place where I was just constantly anxious the whole time, every waking minute of every day, to a place now where I feel quite calm and happy the majority of the time. And a lot of people reached out via comments, Instagram and email asking how I did that. So I thought I'd make this follow-up video sharing 10 of the things that I did which I think were most helpful in helping me become much less anxious, in the hope that it'll be helpful to some of you. So I hope it is helpful. I used to think that I needed to be traveling all over the world, going to nightclubs and just constantly doing things because that's what I saw everyone my age doing. I spent years pursuing these things that brought me no joy and only caused me anxiety just because that's what I thought I should be doing. Eventually I came to the realization that I actually just want a peaceful life, and for right now I'd rather go to like a farm shop than a nightclub, and I'd rather go on a little staycation in the Scottish Highlands rather than go for like a 3-month holiday to Beijing. This realization and change of direction, looking inwards at what I actually want rather than sideways at what everyone else is doing, has brought me a lot of peace. One thing that I don't think gets talked about enough, and one thing that I wish I'd realised much earlier, is that there is such a thing as a bad therapist. In my last video, I shared the story of the therapist who told me to stop eating carbs and fats to cure my anxiety, and I would say that he falls into the category of a bad therapist. I also got referred to a psychiatrist a few years ago, and she told me that if I didn't get my anxiety fixed before I was 30, didn't get married before I was 30, then everyone would stop caring about me. And I'd say that she also falls into the bad therapist category. If you leave your therapy sessions feeling bad, actually worse about yourself, then I would say it's time to find a new therapist. It's their job to nurture you and care for you and sometimes push you, but in a healthy way. They shouldn't be adding to your stress. So my advice would be find a therapist who actually makes you feel good and safe and helps you, and don't feel bad for breaking up with or firing a bad therapist. One of the very simple things that made me feel much better was going for daily walks in nature, and this is something that's backed up by scientific research. In a feature called Nurtured by Nature, which was published by the American Psychological Association, they looked at various studies surrounding this topic and found that there are 3 theories as to why connecting with nature makes us feel better. The first one is that because our ancestors evolved in wild settings and relied on the environment for survival, we have a built-in desire to connect with nature. The second theory is that spending time in nature triggers a response in our bodies that lowers our stress levels. And the third theory is that time in nature replenishes our cognitive resources. My theory is that I just fucking love big trees and I like being around them. I've found that there's a bit of a one-size-fits-all approach in today's world, whereby we're told that we can only get better and grow and improve by constantly pushing ourselves into uncomfortable situations. As part of that outlook, the comfort zone is seen as this evil thing that we should just have nothing to do with. I disagree with that outlook because I think there are a lot of people out there who need to heal first in a safe and comfortable place where they can build up a solid structure before they can push. There's that old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, and I think that's kind of relevant. For the longest time, I was constantly pushing myself into uncomfortable situations and never seeing much progress. It wasn't until I stopped, kind of went into my comfort zone, healed my body, met my basic needs, and reassessed what I actually wanted in life that I began to feel a lot better and gain a sense of peace. I mentioned basic needs a second ago, and although it might seem like quite a simple, obvious one, it's one that we can overlook. When our basic needs like water, sleep, and food aren't met, our mental health suffers. Obviously, I'm still working on the food part there because I'm still built like an empty tracksuit, but I have noticed over the years as I've tended to my basic needs and got better with these things, my mental health has improved. On the food front, there are a lot of nutrients and minerals that if you're low on them, you'll experience constant and uncontrollable anxiety. To keep on top of this, one thing that I do and one thing that I'd recommend you look into if this is something that you think might be affecting you is going to the doctors and getting your blood tested. From there, they can see any of the things that you're low on, and from that, you can adjust your diet and lifestyle a little bit to include more of the things that you are low on and hopefully improve your natural levels of things that are causing you anxiety. One of the most useful things that I've learned about anxiety is that even though it can feel really complex and overwhelming, it often boils down to very simple demands that we place on ourselves. I've discovered that whenever I'm going through a period where I'm experiencing unusually high levels of anxiety, it's typically because I'm telling myself that I must or must not do something. For a simple example, let's say you have an appointment coming up and you're a bit anxious about it, and you're telling yourself that you must not get anxious on front of this other person. Unsurprisingly, putting that demand on yourself that you must not get anxious in front of this other person is only going to make you more anxious. To run with that appointment example, the reality is that if you did get anxious in the appointment, you could just tell the other person and ask if it's okay to step out for a second just to get some air, and I'm pretty sure they would understand that. So if you're feeling uncontrollably anxious, try and figure out if there is a demand at the core of it where you're telling yourself that you must or must not do something, and then figure out, can this be resolved with either rational thinking or just by coming up with a little plan of things that you can do to work around it. This one flows together quite well with the hypothetical example I just gave. It might be something that a lot of people are uncomfortable with doing, but personally I've found that letting other people know what's going on with my anxiety is actually quite a helpful thing to do. I recently went to a new optician and I was kind of anxious about it, so as I sat down in the seat, I just told the optician that I kind of have an anxiety problem and I might need to step outside, and they were totally cool about it. I think just kind of letting people know what's going on, they appreciate it, that you feel comfortable and safe enough to tell them, and it also means that they can kind of meet you halfway and help you and make things easier if things are really bad and if you think that is something that would help you. I know some people would rather just keep it inside and absolutely not tell anyone, but just for me it's something that I'm quite happy to share, not be ashamed about, and just find that it often makes things a lot easier because everyone's then on the same page and knows what's going on. Of all the therapies I've tried over the years, which is a lot, counselling is definitely the one that I've benefited the most from. A big thing that I really like about counselling is that there's no pressure to say the right thing. I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but sometimes in therapy or when you're speaking to friends or family, there's a bit of a pressure or worry about saying the wrong thing. Because of this, you'll often hold back what you're truly thinking or feeling, and keeping those things inside just means that they kind of fester and get worse because you're not getting them out and working through them. In counselling, you just get to speak about what's going on without any pressure to say the right thing and no pressure to fix anything by the next session. So I found counselling really helpful for getting things off my chest, working out my problematic thoughts, addressing my issues, and just kind of making progress at my own pace. This might seem like a bit of a bleak thing to say, but I do mean it in more of a freeing way, to take the pressure off you. It's quite easy to get wrapped up in your thoughts and feelings and feel like your anxiety, your panic attacks, your depression are the most important thing in the world right now and that they're going to last forever. But the way I think about it when I get wrapped up in those kind of feelings and thoughts, which I do, is that in the long run and in the grander scale of things, in 100 years in comparison to the size of the universe, my feelings of anxiety, these little panic attacks that I have, they're very small. So whenever I do feel suffocated or wrapped up in my anxiety, one thing I do to take myself out of that is watch a little 3.5 minute video by Carl Sagan called Pale Blue Dot, and I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below. Hopefully it doesn't cause you an existential crisis. I just find it's very helpful in making my own problems and situation feel very small, which is actually quite helpful for me. In the past couple of years, I started taking medication and it really helped me. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should jump on the pills immediately. My view on medication is that if you've tried everything, I'm talking exercise, sleep, diet, therapy, all of that kind of stuff, and you're still really anxious, then try medication. On the flip side, if you're so anxious that you can't even begin to start all of those things because of how anxious you are, you can't even begin to exercise or go to therapy, then try medication to get the ball rolling. To be very specific about the medication that I'm on sertraline. In the United States, I believe that's called Zoloft. So I will say that I was so anxious about getting side effects of sertraline that I decided to take the little 50 mg pill and chop it up into 8 pieces, and I would work through that dose until each 8 pieces were gone. I would just take 1/8 every day for 8 days, and then after that I would chop it into 7 pieces and take that for 7 days, and then 6 days with 6 pieces, and so on until I was eventually worked up to the full 1 pill 50 mg dose. That might seem like a bit of a headache that a lot of people can't be bothered with, but if you are worried about side effects, then that's a solution that I came up with to avoid them, and it did help me avoid them. It just takes a little bit of a while to work up to the proper dose. So like I said, medication is something that helped me a lot, and it's just something that I think everyone should have the option of, have it available to you. Now, because I don't want to get sued, I need to say that I'm not a doctor or a mental health professional. These are just things that helped me. So if you want to try these things, try them gradually, try them at your own pace, and see if they bring you any peace. Before I end, I want to say that if you've made any changes in your life that have helped your anxiety, your depression, your mental health, or just made you happier in general, then please leave a comment down below telling us all what you did. I think it'd be quite cool to just fill the comments with helpful suggestions, so that if anyone's out there who's really struggling for ideas on how to help themselves, or maybe they can't afford therapy, it'd just be cool to fill the comment section with just loads of helpful ideas for people in that situation. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate you leaving a like and subscribing for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.